I suffer from headaches every day. I haven't seen the sun or breathed fresh air since I set foot in this country. I'm tortured for 24 hours every day. That was part of a letter written by El Chapo to a judge. You think hell doesn't exist? Then you've clearly never stepped inside these walls. No clean water, no mercy, no escape from coffin-sized cells in the Philippines to iron fortresses in El Salvador. These aren't correctional facilities. They're suffocating pressure chambers of endless despair. What you'll come to experience is a form of mental torture far more terrifying than any physical pain. Welcome to a journey through the world's most notorious prisons, where living doesn't mean surviving and dying is a privilege denied.
Sino los que están afuera. Por ahí andan rumores que quieren empezarse a vengar de la gente honrada, al azar. Hagan eso y no va a haber un tiempo de comida en las cárceles. Uno, a ver cuánto tiempo duran sus homeboys allá adentro. Les juro por Dios que no comen un arroz. Y vamos a ver cuánto tiempo duran. Ustedes desatan una ola de criminalidad y nosotros quitamos la comida en las cárceles. Así que mejor esténse tranquilos y déjense arrestar. Por lo menos allá adentro van a vivir y van a tener comida. 2 tiempos, claro.
Number 1. Cecot Prison. Concrete hell. Hidden deep in the scorched hills of Tecoluca stands one of the most ambitious and controversial prison projects in modern Latin American history. The Terrorism Confinement Center, known as Cecot, officially opened its gates in early 2023. Sprawling across more than 166 hectares, it was designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates, making it the largest prison on the continent, and possibly one of the most intimidating. Constructed during President Nayib Bukele's sweeping crackdown on organized crime, Cecot is surrounded by towering concrete walls and reinforced with layers of razor wire. The facility is divided into 8 monolithic housing blocks, all monitored by an advanced surveillance system that operates every hour of every day. The United States quickly took notice. In a closed-door meeting, Senator Marco Rubio discussed with President Bukele the possibility of sending deported felons from the United States to serve time inside Cecot. Within months, nearly 300 men were transferred. These were no small-time offenders. They were alleged to be high-ranking members of Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang, or linked to El Salvador's deadly MS-13 network. According to reports, they were labeled national security threats, unfit for regular detention centers. Whispers have even drawn comparisons between Cecot and the legendary escape-prone drug lord El Chapo. The man who twice escaped from Mexican prisons will now spend the rest of his life. But not every inmate in Cecot fits that profile. Human rights organizations, including the Socorro Jurídico Humanitario based in El Salvador, claim that nearly 1/3 of the prison's population may have been detained without trial or sufficient evidence. Some were reportedly arrested during mass raids, swept up without warrants, legal representation, or charges that would hold in any court. Inside, the conditions are bleak. Meals consist of beans and plain noodles, often without protein. Showers happen beside sleeping quarters using plastic bins filled from communal tanks. Cells designed for 40. Hold up to 70 men, leaving no room for privacy comfort or even consistent airflow. Despite 24-hour surveillance, there were over 170 reports of violence, assault, and torture within the first 6 months of 2024. Inmates are rarely granted appeals or release, and most endure confinement indefinitely. Cecot was introduced to the world as a model of modern justice. Today, many call it something else entirely, a concrete symbol of fear control and a justice system where due process may no longer apply. Number 2. San Pedro children behind bars. While Cecot represents the face of modern ultra-security high walls and absolute control, San Pedro Prison offers a chilling contrast. One where order comes not from authority, but from chaos that has been normalized. In the heart of La Paz, Bolivia, just a few blocks from government buildings and busy markets, lies one of the strangest prisons in the world. Built in the year 1895, San Pedro was originally designed to hold around 600 inmates. Today, it holds more than 3,000. But overcrowding is only the beginning of this story. San Pedro doesn't operate like a normal prison. In fact, it barely resembles one. There are no guards inside the walls. There are no bars separating prisoners from each other. And there is no real authority except for the prisoners themselves. For decades, inmates have run the prison as a self-contained society, complete with a functioning economy, elected leaders, and internal rules that often work better than what's outside. Some inmates live with their wives and children inside their cells. Others run small businesses, barbershops, bakeries, tiny grocery stores, and even restaurants, all operating with real currency earned and spent within these walls. Money equals safety. The more you have, the better you live. The poor sleep on concrete floors in dangerous blocks. The rich buy private cells with cable television, running water, and sometimes even internet access. The hierarchy is visible in everything from clothing to food to personal space. And like any society, corruption lurks beneath the surface. Drugs, especially cocaine, are produced and sold inside, protected by internal power brokers who control entire wings of the prison. What shocks outsiders even more is that for years, San Pedro was open to tourists. Foreign travelers were once allowed to buy tickets, get a guided tour by inmates, and take photos in one of the world's only open prisons. That practice has since stopped, but the chaos remains. But perhaps the most tragic element isn't the drugs nor the violence, it's the children. Many of them were born inside the prison and have never known life beyond its walls. They spend their days in the courtyards or locked in small rooms while their parents hustle for money or spiral into addiction. Volunteers and psychologists try to protect them. But protection has its limits in a place where survival depends on power, and innocence is often the first thing lost. Number 3. Rahova Prison. Impregnable Fortress. Romania is known for its medieval castles, misty forests, and haunting folklore. But hidden beyond the beauty lies a structure even darker than legend. Few outside the country realize that deep in the outskirts of Bucharest, there stands a real fortress of silence, Rahova Prison, a place meant for those marked by crime. This maximum security complex is locked behind two unyielding barriers. The first wall, standing nearly 13 feet high, separates administration buildings and visitation halls from the outer inmate blocks. But it is the second wall, a towering slab of steel-reinforced concrete, measuring over 19 feet, that encloses what many call the black heart of Romanian incarceration. Inside are 7 concrete towers, each containing hundreds of steel-barred cells. Here, the state keeps its most violent repeat and unrepentant offenders. Men whose crimes are so severe that trust and time no longer apply. Inside this concrete labyrinth, time does not pass. In hours, it hangs like weight. Prisoners are confined to their cells for nearly 20 hours every single day, with movement monitored through an intricate web of surveillance cameras and hallway sensors. When allowed outside, inmates are placed into cage-like enclosures. Barely freedom does not belong here, and mercy is not part of the architecture. Unlike prisons where work is a right, here, it is a privilege, and a rare one at that. Tasks like laundry, kitchen prep, or cleaning are reserved only for those who follow every rule without question. Any deviation, however minor, can result in punishment or long stretches of solitary confinement. Among the thousands who have passed through Rahova's gates, one name gained public attention: Adrian Stroh, a convicted serial killer who arrived in the late 1990s. After reading the Bible behind bars, Stroh converted to Adventism, eventually becoming a prison preacher. His release in 2018, after nearly 2 decades inside, stirred national controversy. Critics argued that spiritual redemption could never erase the past. But for most inmates, here transformation is not even a fantasy, it's a forgotten language. Conversations fade into silence and hope dissolves into routine. They do not rebel because rebellion requires energy. They do not dream because dreaming invites pain. Over time, they become still, not because they're calm, but because they've stopped believing anything will ever change. Number 4. Taiwan's worst prison. Beyond the snow-dusted limestone peaks of the European Alps to the dense subtropical forests and industrial sprawl of East Asia, lies a prison built not just to detain, but to dissolve. In the heart of Taiwan, between gray factories and whispering bamboo groves, stands Taichung Men's Prison, the nation's largest and most fortified maximum security facility. Housing more than 4,500 inmates, including over 100 serving life sentences. Taichung is designed like a sealed circuit. Electric fences wrap the perimeter, and cameras roll 24 hours a day. An open stretch of barren ground known as the no man's zone forms a deadly buffer between freedom and capture. Escape is not only unlikely, it's logistically impossible. The prison's population includes some of the most hardened criminals in Taiwan's modern history. Many are deeply tied to narcotics trafficking, particularly through networks linked to Chinese triads and Southeast Asian drug syndicates. But the most terrifying form of torture isn't physical violence, it's the silent psychological torment. And in this prison that stands as a chilling example. Cells here are barely 20 square meters. Even so, each one holds 8 men. That's just 2.5 square meters per person, less space than the average walk-in closet. There are no beds, no partitions, no privacy. Inmates sleep on the cold floor under fluorescent lights that remain on through the night. There is no darkness, and there is no silence, only the hum of artificial light and the rustle of restless bodies trying to disappear into routine. Meals are eaten cross-legged on concrete. Toilets, showers, and sinks are shared openly within the same space, eroding dignity one day at a time. Water is rationed, strictly supplied only twice a day, 2 hours at a time. Prisoners hoard every drop in plastic jugs, knowing that no one will help them when it runs out. There are no screams at Taichung, no chaos, no blood on the walls. In this prison, the only thing that truly prevails is ruthless control. And that control slowly hollows a person from the inside out. For many, the only thing being reshaped is their sense of self, chiseled away by repetition until they forget what it meant to live freely. In Taichung, they don't crush the body, they wear down the mind. Until all that's left is a version of you that simply obeys, breathes, and waits. Number 5. South Cotabato Jail. If Taichung Men's Prison breaks the human spirit with discipline and silence, then South Cotabato Jail destroys it through chaos, overcrowding, and neglect. Located in the southern Philippines, this facility is a stark contrast to the rigid structure of Taiwan's prison system. Where Taichung controls through sterile routine, Cotabato swallows inmates in disorder and lets them disappear under the weight of numbers and noise. Designed for just 600 inmates, South Cotabato now holds more than triple that capacity. In some blocks, nearly 70 prisoners are packed into a single 25 square meter cell. There are no beds, no fans, and no space to breathe. Men sleep in shifts, pressed shoulder to shoulder on filthy tile floors, their bodies layered in sweat and the stench of sewage. The air does not move, and neither do the guards, because in many wings there are none. Without proper supervision, power falls into the hands of the inmates themselves. Makeshift hierarchies rise quickly, governed not by law, but by intimidation and wealth. Every basic need becomes a transaction. A cup of clean water, a corner to sleep, and a few spoonfuls of food that didn't come from the state kitchen. All of it must be bought. Those without money suffer, and those without connections are simply forgotten. And what's even worse is that in a place where everyone is thrown in for being tainted by crime, they are still discriminated against based on nationality. One man, a European traveler, was arrested after a drunken altercation led to a death. Without a trial, without a lawyer, and without a single word of Filipino in his vocabulary, he was thrown into the general population. He knew nothing about the prison's unspoken rules, and within hours he became a target. He was extorted, robbed, and forced to clean the cell's overflowing toilet to earn space on the floor. For weeks, he relied on instant noodles shared by a few kind inmates. When his family finally managed to send funds from abroad, his situation improved, but only slightly. He bought a few square feet of space near the back wall, a few sealed bottles of water, and enough medicine to treat a stubborn infection in his lungs. But fear never left him. In South Cotabato, even a full stomach doesn't guarantee safety. The justice system outside moves slowly, but inside these walls, time barely exists. When the prison gates close, the lives of those locked inside follow a similar fate. If escape is possible, it's a rare stroke of luck. But for those who can't get out, all that's left is to accept, adapt, and endure day by day as the thread of life grows ever thinner. Number 6. Women's only prison. If the notorious prisons we've seen so far haven't left you stunned, then prepare yourself for a different kind of confinement. One built exclusively for women. And make no mistake, the severity of this place rivals anything experienced by men. In São Luís, a city in Brazil's impoverished Maranhão, state brutality comes wrapped in routine. And survival is measured not by strength, but by endurance. Brazil ranks 5th in the world for total prison population, with more than 800,000 individuals behind bars. In Maranhão, where the average monthly income barely reaches the equivalent of $130 poverty and desperation, fuel drug crime at an alarming rate. Among the 9 facilities that form the Zé Luís prison complex, one is reserved for female offenders, a facility that currently houses over 300 women, many of whom were sentenced for trafficking, armed robbery, and gang-related crimes. Security here is militarized. Each day begins with a mandatory strip search before prisoners are allowed into the open yard. Armed guards, many of them women, patrol in bulletproof vests wielding tear gas and riot batons. Metal detectors scan for contraband while body scanners and full bag inspections are conducted at every gate. Surveillance cameras blanket the interior. Guard towers loom over 2 layers of fencing, both lined with razor wire nearly 5 meters high. But it's not just the surveillance that suffocates. The daily routine is calculated stripped of comfort and privacy. Cells measure just 14 square meters and typically house 8 or 9 women. Within this small space are a toilet, a single faucet, and a shared shower head. Every activity from washing to sleeping happens in full view of others. The air is hot, thick, and never clean. Meals are basic and repetitive: stale bread and coffee for breakfast, rice and beans for lunch with chicken on better days. Access to medical care is limited, and personal hygiene depends entirely on the ability to purchase soap pads and shampoo, items that are never freely provided. Prisoners are permitted 3 hours per day in the outdoor courtyard, always under direct supervision. Any violation of rules can result in days without yard time, or worse, solitary confinement. But within this rigid, unforgiving system, some women find space to rebuild. Those who follow every rule may earn the right to work in the kitchen, participate in basic skills training, or receive small stipends for sewing prison uniforms. São Luís is not just a prison, it is a mirror of systemic inequality. Here, punishment extends beyond time served. It touches the body, the psyche, and the very idea of what it means to be a woman inside a system designed to erase her. Number 7. The truth behind the world's worst prisons. Behind every wall, beyond every locked gate, there lies a silence that speaks louder than any courtroom verdict. It doesn't matter whether the prison is cold and clinical, chaotic and lawless, or tightly ordered to the second. Once a person crosses the threshold from freedom into confinement, something inside them begins to shift in a way they never fully anticipate. For the inmates, the world they once belonged to doesn't disappear immediately. It fades slowly, painfully, day after day. In the early days, regret comes in heavy waves. Regret for the crimes committed, but more often regret for the ordinary things they never thought they'd lose. The simple act of closing a door behind you because you chose to, not because someone else did it for you. And it is in that space between memory and reality, between guilt and survival, where the true punishment unfolds. Not all prisoners feel remorse, not all want redemption, but all feel loss. And regardless of where they are locked away, they all come to the same realization. The outside world will move on without them, and their life is now reduced to this place, this space of repetition, control, and stillness. Even so, the human spirit does not break all at once. A few discover small sparks of humanity, an unexpected kindness, a shared piece of food, the comfort of someone listening without judgment. These moments are rare, often fleeting, but they are real. And they are a reminder that even the most broken environments can still hold fragments of grace. But let this not be mistaken for sympathy without accountability. This is not an attempt to cleanse or soften the reality of what these people have done. Many are here because they committed grave, even brutal acts. And justice, true justice, demands that there be consequences. Living inside these harsh institutions is part of that price. Because no matter how infamous the prison may be, no matter how brutal or forgotten, those inside share a single, quiet truth. And with that day comes the need to accept that this is now their world. The punishment is no longer just a sentence, it is the life they must live to carry the weight of their past. End. In the end, behind all the noise, routine, and control, there is a truth that no prison gate can hide. Life, even in its harshest form, always finds a way to continue. For the people behind bars, time moves differently. Days are heavy, nights are longer, and the past never really stays in the past. But even there, in places forgotten by the world, breath is drawn. Memories linger, and hope, however faint, still flickers. Thank you for watching. If this story left something with you, please like and subscribe to the NVL Travel Documentary.